Imagine yourself standing in a small medieval town somewhere in France. The air smells faintly of clay and smoke, and the streets below are narrow and full of soft echoes, the clatter of wooden carts, the low murmur of traders, the distant ringing of a church bell marking another hour. Above all this, high on the slanted beams and scaffolds, move the roof tilers, the men who rebuild the town after fire, who give shape once again to its shelter and skyline. They work slowly, steadily, in rhythm with the world below, but at a distance from it. From this height they see everything: chimneys leaning, the flow of smoke, the gradual repair of a living town. Their work is not loud or hurried. It is careful, deliberate, a pattern repeated hundreds of times across centuries. You can almost hear it. The soft tap of tile against wood, the faint creak of ladders, the scrape of clay. Let us drift into their world for a while, a world built by hand, sun-warmed and steady, where each tile finds its place like a note in a quiet song. Each morning begins early for the roof tilers. The first light of day glows pale over the rooftops, catching the edges of the red clay tiles stacked neatly on wooden planks. Below, the streets are still damp from the night, but up here, the wind already feels dry and clear. The tilers begin by carrying the tiles, 1, 2, sometimes 3 at a time, balanced carefully against their chests. Their hands are calloused and rough, but sure. They move with the balance of dancers, careful with every step on the wooden beams that form the skeleton of the roof. The clay tiles themselves are simple yet beautiful. Each one slightly different, each one shaped by hand in the workshops near the riverbanks. When the clay was still soft, it was pressed into molds and left to dry in the sun. Then it was fired in kilns, turning it from soft earth into something hard, resonant, and almost musical. As the day warms, the rooftops radiate heat. The scent of baked clay and pine wood fills the air. The tilers work quietly, calling out to one another only when needed, a steady rhythm of voices and tools. The tiles are laid in overlapping rows, angled to shed rain, fitted like scales across the bones of the house. Each click of placement, each press of mortar, is a gesture of trust that the roof will hold, that it will keep the family below dry through storm and snow. Sometimes they pause to rest, sitting on the ridge where 2 slopes meet. From there, the view spreads wide: chimneys, towers, a marketplace below. Smoke curls lazily upward from bakeries and hearths. It is a world seen from above, yet intimately known through years of labor. When the sun begins to fall, they descend again, their bodies tired but content, leaving behind rows of fresh tiles that glow red in the evening light. In many towns across medieval France, great fires changed everything. The narrow wooden streets, packed tight with shops and homes, burned quickly. A single spark could turn half a town into ash. But when the smoke cleared, it was the builders and roof tilers who came first, carrying timber, clay, and stone. They worked side by side to rebuild what had been lost, shaping new roofs that would resist the next blaze. After the Great Fire of Rouen in the 13th century, for instance, tilers covered hundreds of new houses with carefully baked tiles instead of thatch, marking a quiet transformation in the very texture of the city. Guilds began to form associations of craftsmen who protected their skills and ensured quality. In towns like Paris, Lyon, and Tours, the tilers were known for their discipline and pride. They had rules about how roofs were measured, how tiles were aligned, and even how the apprentices were to be taught. In those years of rebuilding, roofs were not just structures, they were symbols of renewal. Each tile that found its place was a gesture of resilience, a sign that the town, though scarred by flame, would live again. And so, through countless small acts of labor, the tilers left their mark on history, not through fame or record, but through the quiet persistence of clay and craft. Centuries later, archaeologists digging beneath old houses sometimes find roof tiles buried in rubble or preserved in forgotten cellars. When they lift them from the earth, the tiles still carry fingerprints, literal impressions of the tilers who made them. Some are stamped with small symbols, a star, a cross, a name scratched in Latin or Old French. These marks were not decorative, they were identifiers, the signatures of workshops or guild members, a way of saying, "This was made by my hand." In some cases, tiles bear traces of unexpected life. The paw print of a cat that wandered across the clay before it hardened, or the faint impression of straw from the drying yard. Each one a quiet accident, a fragment of a moment when the ordinary world touched the act of creation. Under church floors and castle ruins, such tiles have survived hundreds of years. They are pieces of sunlight turned to stone, reminders of the unseen workers whose craft sheltered entire towns. From their rooftops, the tilers could see everything. They saw the merchants opening stalls, the children chasing chickens in the lanes, the lords passing through on horseback, yet they remained apart, suspended between sky and street, their lives unfolding on narrow beams and shifting tiles. It was a precarious life, but not a lonely one. Up there, the world felt simpler: wind, warmth, and work. Below, the market hummed with life and argument. Above, there was the slow music of labor and the soft call of doves nesting beneath the eaves. Each day ended with the lowering of tools, the cooling of the tiles, and the fading of the sun across their finished work. The roofs, once bare, now gleamed like fields of rusted gold, quiet witnesses to the life of the town beneath them. The roof tilers of medieval France are long gone, their names forgotten, yet their work remains not in books or monuments, but in the ordinary miracle of shelter, the warmth that holds against the rain, the protection offered without thought. Their craft was not grand or celebrated, but it was enduring. A quiet height of labor, steady as breath, patient as the seasons. So as you drift now into rest, imagine the rooftops of that medieval town, a patchwork of red and gold under the last light of day, the wind soft against the tiles, the faint creak of wood, the town below settling into silence. And above it all, the memory of those who built its shelter, one tile at a time,